MMA king and I came for the crown. All your phonies and clowns need to move around. Cause I'ma put you in the dirt and have you come out looking brown. But it's okay, don't frown, cause I'm always gonna be around. So listen up, I'm only getting started. This is still the first round.
Hello MMA community, YouTubers, the fighting guru fans on my channel. I am happy to bring you guys a segment. Today is an important segment, maybe the most important one of the week, besides my post-weigh-in observations, which will start to be consistent. I may not always do the full observations, and I may not always do the full breakdowns, but I promise that the ones that I will start to do at least portions of them every week, because I told you I'm finally doing this full time. So when I did make the transition, I told you guys I had some responsibilities left over at my old job. I was a very important piece of the moving pieces. I was an important factor, so I had to keep things in good standings. I had to make sure that I didn't just leave them without somebody who can do what I was doing. So I had to do some training, and it required a lot of time. And I was also still invested in doing like 60 hours a week in my Patreon. And my Patreon, if you're in my Patreon, you'll see that there have been guys who have had a Patreon for years, longer than I have, and they don't even have 20% of the amount of content that I have in mind in just 3 months. I have almost about 1,000 folders, different, because every folder, it varies from the fighters' names. If you have a fighter that you're interested in, you just type his name and a folder comes out with all his breakdowns for every fight that he ever had while I had a Patreon. Or if you're just looking for underdogs or parlays. So it took me a long time to designate all these folders, and there's about 2,000 posts. Other Patreons have like 400 at tops, I've seen. But anyways, back on track. I'm doing this full time. I'm completely cut ties with my other job. I'm doing this and only this now. I have no other obligations, so I could do more content. I'll never give the full, but I will give you some partial breakdowns, and I'm going to start to go back into making it an organized, consistent regimen. Today's segment is Fade of the Week, Underdog of the Week, and in every episode, I'm always going to give you a parlay piece because I'm the parlay king. Who else is going to bring you the most trustworthy parlay pieces? And it comes in hand sometimes, because if you have a Fade of the Week, a lot of my patrons tell me, dude, all I got to do is just take the guy who you faded and parlay the winner who you chose, and that's a guaranteed winning. Because I've never been wrong. When I give you a Fade of the Week, I'm at 100% betting. And not only do they lose, they usually always get knocked out in the first round or just embarrassed. So many times, if you just go back, my Anderson Silvas, my Carlton Minuses, I've never had a Fade of the Week that didn't let us down or let people down. Guitar Hero, twice I faded him. Justin James. All right, anyway, and both times in the first round he got knocked out. This week's, and also I'm gonna, like my 3 weeks in a row. Last time I told you guys Martin Day and All-Star Overeem. One of the things that I specialize in is face-off body language. I can pick it up because I've been into a lot of fights where I've seen the fight come out of the fighter before the fight started. You can tell when somebody doesn't want to be there and is not confident. If you take your confidence out, anything you do in the world, you're not going to do it good. If you're not confident in yourself when you're doing something, you're never going to be good at it. You're always going to fail or just be bad. And I've seen there was no confidence in Rodolfo Vieira, who I already said, if you looked at my Twitter, was not, he was looking, I got some new subscribers to my channel. I want to give you a shout out. So I'll give you the name in the comment section. He was nice enough to say, I saw you making comments at DFS's Brady's show. During his show, his live show, me and him were having a discussion. On the screen you can see it said MMA Parlay King, and I had told him that Rodolfo, not only did I pick against him, but he also looked bad at the scales. He looked very nervous. He was looking down, and Brady said it doesn't matter because everybody looks down. And I didn't want to argue because it's his show, but somebody had noticed that, and they said, hey, I'm coming from that channel. I noticed that because this was before the fight started. And he said, I noticed that you're the only person that picked against Vieira. Well, a part of the confirmation that I got was from post weigh-ins. Another thing is Alistar Overeem and Martin Day. So Alexander Volkov and Timur Valev were one of the biggest pieces of our parlays and single bets, because I saw that their opponent, Martin Day, at the weigh-in face-offs, they looked like they were going to a funeral, was my exact words. I said they were going to a funeral. That's the way they looked. And this week it was Jan Vanderia, the guy who fought against Sergey Spivak. That guy, I told you guys in my comments, in my post-weigh-in observations, he already lost the fight. Or against Miranda Maverick, that girl who pulled out. Or Phil Hawes, the week that they canceled the fight, they pulled him off. I have the best weigh-in observations. Nobody can argue that. It's on a different level than anybody else who's ever looked at weigh-ins, and that's going to start to come to the channel. So hit the reminders, because those are time sensitive. If I give you a post-weigh-in observation, the chances are, if you don't move on it fast, the lines will have already beat you to whatever. Because if I caught it, there's a good chance somebody else could have caught it. Or there's a good chance that something can change, or if you don't get it in time, it'll cost you money. So if you're in the Patreon, you get the full, even if I don't have the time, which now I do, I'll have the time to do the actual segments. You saw yesterday, I finally posted some private segments. I had some before, but I'm going to do it more often. I posted one yesterday for patrons only, and it was a long 20-minute segment. So you can see I have time to do that now. And my full, even if I don't do the breakdowns and if I don't do the observations, just know it doesn't mean it's not going to be used on my bet slips. My bet slips will still have those things taken into consideration. So don't worry about that. Due to a lot of, my Patreon has grown to 200 members about. If you count the people that I blocked, it's more than 200. And more than half of those people are guys who are other prediction specialists. I've had other, like you've seen at Baby Yoda, like people that they don't even hide. They tell me, hey, I sell your picks to my clients. And I notice that, like, if I give them out too early, people are trying to they're giving it to their customers before I can give it to my customers. And I don't want that. So sometimes you'll notice you will not get my most confident picks until it's time to do it on the bet slips. It's come to that point, unfortunately, where too many people are trying to steal my content and used it on like professional tracking sites to try to, and then they try to compete with me and talk down about me and say that they could do what I could do when they're stealing from me. So for those reasons, you may have to only get limited content, but just know that the bet slips will always have the full details on there once you get those released after the weigh-ins. Okay, so my fade of the week today we're going to talk about, and then I'm going to give you guys my most confident pick. And then I'm going to give you guys my most best favorite underdog. Well, not my most. Here's the thing about confident picks, guys. For me, it's so easy. They're all confident picks. There's never going to be a fight where I look at the fights and I say, you know what? I'm not sure if this guy's going to win. I don't know if he'll win. If I see a fight, I see it for what it's going to be. I don't ever have any doubts in my mind about who's going to win. If somebody else wins instead, it's going to be either a robbery or it's going to be the guy who I was studying did something completely different than anything I could have picked up on in my studies. Basically meaning he's a different person than he showed to be previously and in the studies, in the research. So that's something that anybody could do. Like it's not like I studied it wrong. There wasn't anything there for me to study. It was just different information. And I can only go off of what there's out there. I'm not a psychic. I'm not going to have information that there isn't available to anybody because it's not there. I can't see it. So how would I know it? you know, common sense. So, but if it's there, if there is a person with tape study and he's not a different person by far, I mean, it's okay if they've changed some things, because I do listen to interviews as well. So I will pick up on things. Oh, I've improved this. I became a black belt now. I'm training with so-and-so. So then I'll make that and go, okay, he's going to be better at this. So I could do that. But if there's a guy who's already a black belt, he's still with the same trainer, still sparring partners haven't changed, the coach hasn't changed, it's only been 3 months, I shouldn't expect him to do anything different. So unless they did something different and they had no reason, I had no reason to believe that after studies, that's the only times I'll ever be wrong, which is rare, guys. As long as I keep betting the smart way, right, wrong, win, lose, or draw, I'm going to give you the smarter picks. In the long run, we're always going to be up more than down. All right, so I'll have my timestamps. Don't worry, if you're a fan of mine, you like to watch my show, you probably don't need them. You just listen through the show. But if you want to just get straight to the picks, there'll be timestamps in the description, so you can pass all this stuff up. But believe it or not, this stuff is important. I have to describe to you and explain to you guys the stuff that happens so you guys can have an understanding of it. This show is more than just picks. I'm trying to teach you guys things and help you understand the concept behind what happens and what we're doing and how we're doing it and why we're doing it and all that stuff. It needs to make sense to you guys so you can be a believer in not just me, but what I'm doing and why I'm doing it and how I'm doing it and how much time I'm spending on doing it. Okay, my confident pick. This is a guy, okay, let's start with my underdog of the day. My underdog of the day is none other than Kevin Croom. He's coming in as a 2-to-1 underdog. His opponent, Bruce Leroy Caceres, they call him Bruce Leroy. Caceres is he's a minus 210, more than 2-to-1 favorite. This is a guy who doesn't have the most power. He's very, very soft. He doesn't get like knockout power. He does have somewhat of a volume in his, he does set a pretty decent pace, but he slows down drastically. He doesn't have the greatest cardio. He doesn't have the best IQ. He does have somewhat good timing and precision. He's kind of your higher end, low end tier. So out of all the low end tiers, he's kind of like, but there's different tiers. There's really low level, there's low level, then there's high low level. He's kind of like an in between. He's not the lowest, but he's not even a high low level kind of guy. His record, if you take back the 3 or 4 cans, he's on a great win streak for the first time in a while or ever. He's on like a 3-fight win streak, but these guys are cans of cans. These guys are the worst of the worst. Anybody could beat these guys. So they're very, very bad. And if you minus those 3 or 4 wins against cans, he's got as much losses as wins. He's got a very bad record and for a very good reason. And he doesn't even fight good fighters, good high-level opponents. But his opponent, this is a guy who's been trying to get into the UFC for so long. If we rewind it back to like 6 years ago, okay? He's having breakfast. After he's done with breakfast, you ask, so what are you going to do now? I'm going to try to get into the UFC. 3 hours later, he's done playing his video games, or he came back home after a date with his girlfriend. So what are you going to do now, babe? Oh, I'm going to try to get into the UFC. He woke up thinking about how I'm going to get into the UFC. He fell asleep with the last thing on his mind thinking about how am I going to get into the UFC. That was this guy's life. He didn't care about nothing else more than that. So now he's finally made it, and he's still in the prime of his career. It's kind of late in his career, which is a good thing for us. He knows he doesn't have the time to waste to be patient. He cannot be patient. He's got to go full throttle and give the best performances of his life. He's going to go out on his shield every time. And this is a guy that if it wasn't for that mentality, he knew that he was running out of time. Soon he's going to be out of his prime. He's in his early 30s, so he doesn't have much time. And that if he didn't get into the UFC or do something that gave him the notoriety to make it into the UFC, he would never do it. So because UFC's got so many people knocking on their doors that it's even some of the best people don't make it there sometimes. and there's so many politics involved that sometimes the better people have to take a back seat to the people who are not as good, because they can't just have a bunch of Indian chiefs running around. They need some Indians to make the Chiefs look good. Some give me fight types of, like the Carlton Minuses, the Antigolovs, the Maxim Griffin we're going to talk about. So, all right. Long story short, Alex Caceres is going to get outclassed, outpowered, and outdriven. This guy's got so much motivation and drive behind him right now. He's coming off of an impressive debut win. In the first round, he did such a beautiful, amazing finish against the guy who's very similar to Alex Caceres. So they're giving him they like it. UFC really likes this guy. They're going to be behind him if it gets to a close decision. He's the guy who will get the nudge. In every breakdown, I'm going to tell you advantages, disadvantages, and who, if it came down to it, the marketing machine would want to rather be behind. The guy who they would rather be behind is the guy with the better record, the new prospect, the guy who's going to be just like his last time when he came into the fight on his debut against Roosevelt Roberts. He was a 3-1 underdog, almost a 4. His opponent was a 4-1 favorite, plus 380. One of the biggest underdogs of the night, happened to be the most dominating win of the night. He earned the best performance of that night, if I'm not mistaken, but it should have been if it wasn't, because he did such a great job. That just annihilated him on the feet in the striking department, looked beautiful, and then transitioned it into a submission. And he has the whole package. If you study his tapes from his regional scene from back in the day, where he used to be like a champion in his older divisions, this guy was doing really good. Even in his losses, it was because he was trying to give a fun fight. He didn't want to be a guy that you forget about. He wanted to give fun performances that people talked about so he can get into the UFC. If it wasn't for him trying to get into the UFC, he would have even a better record. You'll notice that even in a fight that he was completely dominating, he was winning 99% of the fight. If it gone to the decisions, if he was just playing it safe after dominating for 2 rounds, he would have won these fights clearly by decision, unanimous. But he still wanted to make it interesting, so he took chances, and he lost a fight that he was winning 99% of the fight during it. Just similar to a guy who's on the main event, Rozenstruik, Biggie Boy they call him, Jairzinho, in a fight that he was losing against a guy like All-Star Overeem, who we just saw get annihilated by Alexander Volkov, which is a guy who I told you at the face-offs won the fight before it even started. And you saw it. As soon as the fight started, Overeem already became defensive. Overeem balled up and started running away before the bell even rang. You can see that my observations were correct. He gave up on the fight before it even started. He knew he was going to lose. So anyways, this is a guy who, even against a guy like that, who doesn't have high volumes, not the best MMA, this is a guy who came from kickboxing, which keep in mind I want to talk about later on with another guy who I'm going to pick who came from the kickboxing scene, but transitioned very well into MMA. We'll talk about that in a minute. Okay, so Jairzinho Rozenstruik is a guy who, up until 40 seconds of the last round, or like a few seconds left, 4 seconds maybe even, it was a few seconds, it was very short, like 10 seconds, 5 seconds, I can't remember. It was a few seconds, let me check. There was only a few seconds left of his it was a fight against All-Star Overeem. Rozenstruik got outclassed. All 3 rounds, was just getting picked apart and annihilated. And okay, 4 seconds left. There was 4 seconds left of the 3rd and final round, and he had finally got a punch landed, and if it wasn't for one punch, he would have got 30-27 dominated by unanimous decision against the guy who should be retired. And now they're putting him against a guy like Ciryl Gane. Ciryl Gane, if you built a character, I said this about him in my last breakdown, so this is the benefit of being in the Patreon. Or if you want to just, if you're a follower, go back to my previous RDA versus, they have a similar opponent in mind, so I pick up a lot of insight. If you ever find a guy fighting a guy that they both have a common opponent in common, they have an opponent that they both fought against, you should compare how each of them held up against that person compared to the other person. Rozenstruik against the same guy that Ciryl Gane dominated and ended up putting away, he had trouble with him, and until it came to that punch, that lucky punch. I wouldn't say lucky because he did land it with precision, and so you shouldn't say lucky. But if it wasn't for a punch, it could have. If it was a guy who was more durable, a guy who was younger, better movement, like Ciryl Gane, that punch wouldn't have been able to close the show, and you would have lost that fight. As opposed to the same guy who fought against Ciryl Gane, who even also got put away by a similar type of a way, but before putting him away, he was also losing the scorecards. In the scorecards, he was getting picked apart on the feet. He was not the more fluid, he was not the better moving, he was not the better offensive or defensive fighter. And in every which way or form, he was losing the fight before getting finished. Rozenstruik doesn't have those abilities. He has to lose the fight until he can win the fight. So there's worlds of differences. There's levels of differences. This is a guy who, similar to Croom, we're going to compare, for example, one of the fights that he was in. He was dominating 10-8 rounds. It wasn't even close. Every second of every round, until the last round, he was annihilating the guy, and he still decided, let me take a chance and do a crazy submission attempt, like a heel hook. He put himself in a position where he took chances. He trusts himself. He knows he's durable. There's a lot of treads left on his tires because his chin is still fresh. He's never been knocked out. This is a guy who's undefeated. And he wanted to give a good show and showcase his skills, that not only could he have beat this guy on the feet, he could have beat him on the ground. So with like 5 seconds left of the final round, he found a submission and submitted the guy. In a fight that he was already dominating, he didn't have to do that in. That's the kind of guy Ciryl Gane is. I tell you, if you could build the perfect character, a cheat code, like one of my patrons even said, that would be the guy. This guy moves and like has the tools in his arsenal of the same things like a Demetrius Johnson, somebody in the bantamweights. He moves like a bantamweight, but has the power and durability and the physique of a heavyweight. And he was a heavyweight champion back in his older organization, and he successfully defended his title twice. He's a former champion, he's undefeated, and he puts away people by any which way you want. If you tell him submit this guy, he'll submit you. You tell him knock him out, he'll knock you out. Kick him, he's got some amazing kicks, amazing strikes, amazing cat-like reflexes. I love how he throws the jab and gets out of the way of the punch at the same time. He's offensive and defensive at the same time. Just beautifully all around, well-rounded, very sound everywhere it goes. And even if Rozenstruik lands a punch, a very hard and good punch, at worst, it would knock this guy down. It won't knock him out. He'll still come back, he's not a scared type of, he trains with Francis Ngannou. One of his main partners is Francis Ngannou. You think he's going to be scared of a guy who put Francis Ngannou to sleep in 30 seconds of the first round? That's his main training partner, a guy who's already beat this guy, who can tell you the ins and outs about what he learned. So he's got an advantage. His good friend and training partner has already studied how to beat this guy and was successful at doing it. That's another thing that people don't think about. Training partners who have experience studying with the same training. So if his training partner was trained by the same guy who's already found a way to beat Rozenstruik, that's a huge advantage, especially because Ngannou is nowhere near as good of a mover or striker. He's got more power, but he's not as good of a fighter technically. He's not as well-rounded and technical as Ciryl Gane, who's just a real threat. This guy's a dark horse of the division and a future champion in the makings. So look out for that guy. Look out for Croom. Kevin Croom is a guy who's going to be making noise. He knows he's got a point to prove. He's running out of time, and he's still in the prime of his career. And he's going to have to do what he did in his last fight. As a huge underdog, make us remember why he shouldn't have been an underdog. And if it wasn't for recency bias, if it wasn't for name value and them nobody knowing who he is compared to a name like a seasoned veteran like Caceres, who's been in the UFC forever, Everybody knows who he is. He shouldn't have been the favorite. It's only due to that reason that he is the favorite. The odd makers messed that one up big time. Especially how far the line is. It's such a wide line. Makes no sense. This guy's got power. He's got good technique, good feints, good level changes, good movement. He's never stationary. He does good angles. He does good mixture of low kicks, high kicks. Everything you can imagine. He does good takedowns. He's got good takedown defense. A little bit it was a concern. I seen him submitted by just run, but again, this was in a fight that he was winning. He took some chances, but let me tell you what's happened. Since his last loss, the last time that he ever lost Croom, since that time, he's a different guy. Not only because now he knows he's finally made it to UFC, he can tone it down a little bit, not take as many risks, he can be more calculated because the job is done. He's already made it to the UFC, but also since that time, he's put in efforts, and his trainer, his sensei, has promoted him to a brown belt. That's a big move, guys. Nobody knows that about him. Not even if you follow his Instagram. This is some insider trade secrets. Nobody will ever have known this. He recently transitioned from a brown to a brown belt. That's a big step up, guys. If you can get a brown belt, and since that time he got a brown belt, he's been undefeated. And I told you guys, who was else, another guy I told you guys who just got promoted to a brown belt, and since then he's been on a tear. I forgot who it was. Oh, Bilal Mohammed is another guy. I told you guys he's a different animal. Since his last loss, he went to a training camp, Sanford, I think it was, or where did I say here? I forgot that, it's on the paper, but he went to a new camp, and I think it was Sanford, I'm not sure. But he's training with some great guys in there, and he, ever since he moved, or Rufus Sports, yeah, say Rufus Sports, and since he moved over there to the Rufus guys, he's been undefeated, and he's training with the likes of some of the greatest. Too many people to list out of that gym. But okay, back on track, guys. We got an underdog. We got a parlay piece. A guy who two of these guys have already fought the same opponent, and both looked very different in those fights. You can see the levels, the differences in them if you study the tapes. So we're going with the undefeated Ciryl Gane to beat Jairzinho Rozenstruik. They call him Biggie Boy. And then we're going to go with, let's see, 40 to 24. Okay, here's an example. Okay, Junior Dos Santos landed 24 significant strikes against Rozenstruik. So 24 hard strikes, and some of them you could tell if they were by like an Ngannou, you would have, that guy, he hit him clean. It was like there was no excuse why you should have let a guy that at that level of his career, at the end of his career, be able to land such clean shots. Some of those shots, if it was by someone else, even in Ciryl Gane maybe, he would have got put to sleep. His head movement was not there, his footwork was not there, his angles were not there. He just looked very bad. And he's lucky that he was fighting against a guy who's not durable and who's older at the end of his career. But now let's take it to the Ciryl Gane versus Junior Dos Santos, the same guy. You know, not only did Ciryl Gane land 30 more strikes, and mind you, he put him away early in the second round. So they both put him away early, but not only did Ciryl Gane land almost twice as much as Rozenstruik did against him, but he only absorbed 9 strikes. That's a third almost, 9 to 25. He only absorbed 9 strikes, and they were not nearly as clean. They were more like tip-tap. I mean, see, one of them was a good size hit, but that's because he was not afraid of engaging. He left himself open so he can exchange with the guy who he knew would be less durable. And I like that he shows heart. That shows that he's not afraid of getting into a dirty fight, and he won't cower out or ball up like a Jordan Wright or a Malcolm Gordon who plays dead every time somebody even looks at them. All right, so he's got everything it takes to be a champion. His significant strikes, look at this, guys. He absorbs at only 1.95, but he, under 2 landed per minute, he absorbs on average, and he gives out about 6. That's a +4 significant rate. At +6 at the 200-pound division, This is a 250. The guy walks around more than 250 pounds in his walk around weight. So to do that, and he's got 100% takedown defense rate, 73% striking defense. These numbers are off the charts. Let's look at Rozenstruik, okay? The absorption rate is 3 point something, so he absorbs much more, and his landed is much less. He only absorbs 3.99 something, so about 4. 4 to 3. It's less than, he's not even a full 1 point differential. He's like 0 point something something of a plus differential rate. Compared to this guy, that's a big difference, guys. Not just in how technical and how nice it looks and fluid, but the reflexes, defense and offensively speaking, and durability-wise, he's the better fighter and everywhere it goes. Oh, and let's not even get started about if it goes down to the ground. This guy's a high-level submission guy. I'm telling you, a guy who can do it like Thiago Moses did, who we're going to talk about soon too. He's on this card. The way he did that heel hook to Michael Johnson in a fight that he was losing, that's the type of stuff this guy did within seconds before the fight came to an end. He wasn't even trying to submit him until seconds before the fight was over, and he still did it. Imagine if he was trying to submit him from the beginning. And then here's another good thing about him. Tanner Boser, we've seen what he did to Andre Arlovski. He outlanded him by 3 to 1. He landed like 100-something strikes to 40. He still lost the fight. I think it was a robbery, even though there were tip-tap like weak strikes. He outlanded him in volume and thought that was going to be enough to win the scorecard, similar to like a Bobby Green strategy against Moises, who beat him at the scorecards as well, because the judges don't like that kind of stuff. It makes for a boring fight, which is why, in my opinion, Imavov should have won against Hawes. Hawes did not. He made it a boring fight. Hawes almost got put away like 3 or 4 times just in the last round alone. He was doing the chicken dance. He was on wobbly feet the entire fight until he started hugging him. He was hugging him the whole time. He didn't. I told you guys this in my breakdown, that he puts himself in a position where it's position over submission, because he doesn't have good submissions really. He's not the highest level submission guy, and he doesn't try to even attempt the submissions. So he just chooses the position over submission, but he doesn't put himself in a position where he can do any damage. He doesn't even rack up points. He's not doing any good ground and pound. So it's such a boring fight, and it's such an ineffective way. It's the reason why the next fight, that girls fight with the Brazilian against the blonde girl, that they didn't give it to the girl who was on top landing, and she was even doing more work than it. The same type of strategy that Hawes was using, it cost that girl the fight. Vieira, whatever her name is, she lost because that was her approach. The judges don't like that. For some reason, they still gave it to Imavov, and they still gave it to Hawes. And I did notice though, Imavov did not fight the way he usually fought, or would usually fight, like against Jordan Williams, or even how confident and energetic he looked in the first weigh-in, the first scale face-offs before they canceled the fight because of Hawes having some medical concerns. He didn't pass the exam. That time he looked great. And in the Williams fight, he looked great. I don't know if it was because it was 2 weight cuts back to back. He did not look good at the scales. I did even mention today, I said he didn't look bad, but he did not look nearly as good. He could tell something was off. He wasn't the normal smiling. He used to have a smirk, and he looked very confident. This was not that same guy, so I was a little bit worried about him and after the scales. I did pick up on that, and you could tell. I noticed it in his performance as well. He didn't do bad, but he could have done better. And if he did a little bit better, he would have won that fight, because it was very close. He almost put him away a few times. So that guy's not a trustworthy guy. Phil Hawes is not a guy you should trust your money with. He doesn't have the cardio. After a couple of rounds of burning himself out, using those tactics that don't get him anywhere, he becomes a human punching bag. That's how Julian Marquez, the Crystal Missile Crisis, who's also not your highest level striker. He's not a high level fighter. He even was able to put him away with strikes after very quickly he gassed himself out. He was a human punching bag. You couldn't even get out of a way of something that was coming from a mile away. All right, guys. So one of what were we talking about? Oh yeah, so we got Ciryl Gane, who will beat Jairzinho. And we've got Underdog, Croom. Another guy I'll give you who's got great value is, let's see here. Sure, why not? Okay, Dustin, Jacoby. I kind of gave you guys this. My fate of the week of this card is Maxim Grishin. Maxim Grishin is very low level and he's very late in his career, and he's got a lot of mileage. So he's a guy who, even though he's like in his 30s, in his MMA years, he's similar to what I said Overeem is. He's like 80 years old because of the mileage on him. He's not your normal 35-year-old. It's like dog years because he's gotten put through a lot of damage in his career from his older organization. And this is a guy, mind you, in his last fight, I had at the casino, I had bet on either inside the first or second round. As long as he wins in either first or second round. It said between 1 and 2 rounds, inside the distance, if he wins, I cashed in on the plus 300 prop bet. He won with 2 seconds left of the second round coming to an end. In 3 more seconds, my prop bet which was a parlay piece, was gonna get ruined. I cashed in a huge prop bet because you know why? They had to give him a guy like Antagulov Gadzumarat. Antagulov is a guy who absorbs 4.2 strikes per minute and only lands 2 strikes per minute. Doubles his, he gets hit twice as much. And this is a guy who out of 8 of his losses, like 7 of them or maybe all of them have come in besides, oh yeah, all of them. Every one of his losses have come in inside the first round. Something told me. Everybody, lock of the night, they bet on first round prop bet. It was like plus 600. I was not greedy. I took a plus 300. Half the amount because something told me if there's anybody who will mess up the first round finishes in his losses, it's going to be Grishin. Because Grishin is another fade. Because this was a fade versus a fade. And that's why I took the second round or the first round instead of just the first round, which was paying twice as much. Everybody went for that prop bet. I'm the only one. You can see it on my Twitter. It was my first week I ever posted bet slips on, I think it was around the Khabib card. I put plus money on a prop bet and it was in the parlay, so I got even double that money. So I got more money than what they were going to get if the first round prop bet cashed in because I did it with a parlay. My system is so perfectly designed, guys. You would have to lose almost half the card. If I lose 60%, 40% of my picks are wrong, my system is designed, and you can ask anybody in the Patreon or in my comment section, if he gets, I've never, besides one occasion only, one time only have I ever came to that type of a percentage. And it was a night that not only consisted of a robbery, it consisted of a guy who was doing a 10-8 round, landing 10-8 rounds, and all of a sudden gets caught with 1 punch. Then a bad referee stoppage, and like 3 canceled fights with our most important fighter of the night. Our biggest underdog and confident pick got pulled off the card. And then after that, another guy got pulled off the card. So between cancellations, robberies from the judges, bad referee, and bad fighter IQ doing this, it took all of that to break even. I didn't even lose money. You know why? Because my prop bets. My prop bets saved me. Usually my prop bets are just icing on the cake. That's just like extra bonus. Everything is just extra profit. I've never came close to needing to be saved by my prop bets. Thank goodness. And you can see the timestamps. I gave 6 prop bets out. These are similar to the ones that, like the week before, I gave a tip for plus 2,000. Look at my Twitter. You can see the tickets that were cashed by my patrons too. Plus 2,000 for Fluffy Hernandez. And if you guys trusted me and listened to me, that was a freebie. I gave you guys that a freebie on January 2nd, way before the lines even moved. This would have been plus 2,500 maybe. It would have even been more at that time. The lines moved a bit. But this guy was, I drew it out. I even said that he's going to desperately shoot in for a takedown. That's what he has a bad tendency of doing. And Fluffy Hernandez is a specialist at grabbing up necks for people who are sloppily, without setting up the takedowns properly, shooting in for a sloppy takedown. He'll not only stuff it, my exact words were, he won't just stuff the takedown, but he'll put you to sleep. I gave him this, it was a freebie prop bet, just like I gave you guys Li Jingling against Ponzinibbio a freebie. I gave a freebie for Alessio De Cicchiro to beat the guy who I told you had not won a decision since 2007, and that you're going to buy into the hype. 3-1 favorite is crazy for a guy like Joaquin Buckley, and nobody believed me, but look what happened. So if you follow my accounts, man, Instagram is Fighting Guru 5, the number 5, FIGHTINGURU 5. The same exact way, but without the 5 for Twitter. I also post there. My old Facebook, I still use it sometimes. Before I was the Fighting Guru, this goes to show, we were just talking about it, my nickname was Prop Bet Master. So if you want to find me on Facebook, look me up as Prop Bet Master, because nobody has ever had a percentage of getting prop bets right like me. My worst record ever was 12 out of 15. So I got 3 wrong out of 15 prop bets. That was my worst percentage. I usually only get 1 wrong. And sometimes I've had perfect picks. So and prop bets, they're all paying plus money. So if you did nothing else, just my prop bets, if you sign up for my Patreon just for prop bets, and you did nothing else but bet the prop bets every week, you'd be a rich man. But imagine with my bet slips, with the system that took me years to develop. All right, guys. It's bulletproof, honestly. It really is. It would have to take literally the combination of the worst storm being put together. Judges, referees, IQ, robberies. Like, all of that would have to come together to make us lose. All right, cancellations. All right, anyway. So we got Maxim Grishin is my fade of the week. I'm really high also on his opponent. This is a guy who had a resurgence. He used to be in the UFC a while back. He wasn't doing as good. He went and he found his success and confidence in training and kickboxing in Glory. He's fought some of the best killers, the best fighters out of that organization. He's beat them or looked really good against them. He's got such good experience fighting in the striking department. This guy's got such good kicks. He's so durable. He's got such a good. He moves like, and this is one of the best parts about it. He doesn't cut weight for this division, for his weight class. He's got the perfect frame. He doesn't look small. He's got a good physique for it, but he moves like a guy coming from like the featherweight class. He's going to be the way faster, way more fluid, more than double, maybe even triple the volume and striking differential compared to his opponent. His opponent barely got the job done against Antigulov, the slowest, most worst fighter in the UFC history probably, guys. The biggest fade of all the fades. He had trouble with him, barely put him away. The referee just felt bad for Antigulov. He stopped the fight while Antigulov was still on his feet. He couldn't even knock him down. Couldn't even knock him out. He stopped the fight just because the guy was just so bad he didn't want to see anymore. But he couldn't even with him not defending himself, with he had like a million punches. Similar to what I said Pedro Munez is like. Pedro Munez, you can absorb 200 punches from him. That will not be as bad as 40 punches from his opponent, for example, Rivera. Because he punches really bad. They're not technically sound punches. They're very, very sloppy. They don't land with good precision. He throws them at your cheek, at your top of your head. Really bad strategy. Really bad loopy punches. Not enough power and not enough precision. So he's similar to that. He threw like a million strikes. He couldn't, and the guy wasn't even defending. He was just eating them up, boom, 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 boom. He didn't even fall on the ground, guys. He couldn't even fall on the ground after freaking barrage of them. The referee just had to stop the fight. Thank God, 2 seconds before the round was over, or else my prop bet wasn't going to cash. I was nervous, guys. I was sweating. I thought for sure he was going to blow it. And I knew he was going to blow it. It's the only time he's ever made it out of the first round. All of Antigulov's other losses were in the first round. He's the only guy that made him go to the second round. And they had been training partners. He knew this guy. Similar to, I told you the reason why Usman was not going to win by decision. I said they know each other too much. He knows how to get this guy put away. It was not going to be if you look at the prop bet on my professional, it was the only prop bet that I did at the MMA betting tips tracking website that week. I went 7-0. I gave single bets, prop bets, and parlays. All of them cashed in. 45 unit profit. 44 and something. 45 units profit almost in one day. Never heard of. If you put the number 2, number 3, number 4, number 5, number 6 guys' unit profits together, out of 3,000 handicappers on that website, if you put the guy who was in second place profits for units on that UFC 258 card, and then combine his profit totals with the guy who was in number 3, 4, 5, and 6 and put them together, they didn't make as many profits as me. I was better than all those guys in the top 5 put together. I always promised you guys that I was on a different level than everybody since the first day I opened this channel. 5 months, 4 months later, 200 patrons later, thousands of followers later, I'm still living up to that reputation. Now, guys, anything I do, that last job I was at where I was getting paid $120 an hour, I just finally transitioned out of doing for this job instead. They still want me back. There's a reason. They have thousands of employees and they don't want to lose me. There's a reason, because I do everything. I don't do anything if I can't be the best at it. I try my hardest. I lose my social life. I lose I sacrifice my fun. I don't watch my shows anymore. I'm just dedicated to being the best at what I do first and foremost. If I was a restaurant owner, I would not go to sleep until I made the best steaks in the world. If I was a barber, I would not go to sleep until I found out that I was giving the best haircuts in the world. That's just how I am, guys. I was born that way. That's why I was undefeated when I was a boxer. I never submit in submissions. In karate, I was the best. In wrestling, I was the best. In boxing, I was the best. Everything I ever did, guys. I don't accept second place to nothing, to nobody, guys. And my record, not just professionally tracked, will show you that my first week. And that's even when the first time my account got hacked and I got deleted. I just couldn't get into it. I had got a new phone. If you remember, I made a post that I'm getting a new phone, so I had to lose. I did it twice. 2 weeks, I went professionally tracked, undefeated, 6-0 in my first time, and then the next time 7-0. But I lost the credit for that week because my phone got stolen. I didn't have the password, so I had to get the new. But even I started right back to where I was. You think it's a coincidence that 2 times I started, both of those first weeks were undefeated weeks, 7-0? No coincidence, guys. All right, guys. So we've got 4 picks. Let me recap, even though there'll be timestamps. We got Maxim Griffin as my fade of the week, losing to Dustin Jacoby, who's got such good high-level striking. He's similar to like Ciryl Gane. They both came from the kickboxing world, same organizations. He's fought some of the best of the best, but this resurgence, since he's come back, he's been undefeated. We won a lot of money against Justin Ledette. He put him away so impressively in the first round. Justin Ledette is a big guy. He was way bigger than him especially. And he put him away like nothing. It was such easy work. Now against a guy like Grishin, who's another fade, a guy who doesn't belong in the UFC, the reason we're getting such good value for him and we're getting him, this is a mismatch, is because he's just started to come back to the UFC recently and they like him. They don't want to put him into the Wolves pack really fast. They want to build him up, make him look like a world beater, build his confidence up, and then sell a good fight. Right now we got to take advantage. They're still matching him up with guys that are not nowhere near his level. He's going to annihilate this guy. All right, guys. I gave you my underdog play of the day. This is not a fight that you really want to go too all in on. It's not a great parlay piece. It's designed to be better and a perfect. So we will use it in a parlay, but not the way you think. That's the benefit of being in a Patreon. Let me do the thinking for you. It's not as clear as you'll never know how to bet fights. You can have all the right picks, but you'll lose money if you don't know how to bet it. So join the Patreon so you know how to bet these fights the best way possible. You will win so much money and you'll do it safely. I'm even giving them safe parlay pieces. Do you know I found a way to make a guy like Sean Brady, who's fighting on the Israel Adesanya card against, I found a way to get 8-1 odds on that fight. 8-1 odds. So you bet $100 on Sean Brady, I'll get you $800 for that $100. I found a way to do that for my patrons. If you want that, go join the Patreon today. You'll get that same bet that they got today. You'll get private segments that are only available to the Patreon members only. You'll get, which is all the tiers. Some tiers get even more extra content that's not available to the lower tiers, but even the lower tiers have access. There's another pick on this card I didn't give you guys on my YouTube channel, and the rest of the picks, I'm so confident in these. If you only do prop bets, or if you only do single bets, no parlays, or you only do 2-leg parlays, you're gonna make 20 times your money, guys. 20 times your money. Don't tell me that even the highest tier is gonna be paid back in its entirety plus times 10 on the first day. Not included, I give outside MMA tips. There's days I gone 7-0, 7 out of no wrong in NBA, NHL. I give them tips for every sport almost. Risen, my Bellator and Risen and Glory track record is flawless. I've never hardly got any wrong in Bellator or Glory or Risen or KSW, LFA, Octagon, all these different sports. You guys can get that stuff from inside the Patreon. My mind, my system can be applied to other things as well inside the Patreon. Now that I'm doing this full time, it's the best time to get in on the board. You can ask about a special I'm doing. Like last week, I did a special. I gave them a 2-leg parlay. If it didn't cash in, you guys were going to be able to get your money back for free. It was Timur Valev and Devontae Smith against Justin Gaines. That 2-leg parlay was paying more than 2-1 odds. You bet 100, you win $210 back, something like that. $205. So it was more than double your money, and it was a risk-free. So if you make that bet and you lost, you get your money back. I personally pay you back for your membership, and you can still stay inside the Patreon. You can be a member for free. That's the type of specials that I do. I back up, and does anybody else that you know do that? Back up their memberships by money back guarantees. That's how confident I am in my work. All right, guys, if you give me enough likes, if we get to 90 likes, 90, I'm not going to be greedy, just 90. We've done 150 in my last videos. Give me 90 likes and leave some comments. I'll give you a very good, high-paying, sneaky prop bet in the comment section. Like the one that I gave you, for example, with Matt Brown losing by decision. Everybody thought he was going to get knocked out because he's so chinny that Carlos Condit was going to win by inside the distance. I gave you a plus 275 prop bet inside the comment section. I cashed in. I gave you Beneil Dariush as an underdog. Cashed in. I always give you guys good props and stuff. So hit that comment section. Hit the likes. Hit the reminders. Check out the Patreon and my social media, Instagram and Twitter or Facebook. It's all in the description link. If you go to the descriptions where the timestamps are, you can see the links on how to reach my Patreon's website and or my social media websites. Please follow me and be a supporter at my other channel, because I'm going to start to do stories every day. You're going to get a short story on my Instagram. I'll give you betting tips, stuff that's only available for 24 hours, and then Instagram will erase it forever. So it's like a Snapchat type of a story. It goes away after a day. So make sure that you're adding me on Instagram as well, so that you can get these stories where I'll be able to give you like the tip. I told you Aspinall was gonna finish his opponent Arlovsky. I said it was the worst style matchup, that unless if Arlovsky has to fight the old way that he used to fight, but that'll get him put away. And he did do exactly that, and that's why he did get put away. I even said it in my live companion before it happened. If you were live betting, I said he's going to get put away. Again, I reminded them of what I said in my video and on my posts and everywhere else. So there's a benefit financially speaking, and it's free. You just gotta, you won't get as much as you'll get in a Patreon. You won't get my bet slips. You won't get stuff like that, but it's something for free. Why not? It's a win-win situation. All right, guys, thank you for your time. I appreciate your support. Another freebie I'll give you guys, just because I extended this video for your time, just so you know that if you're a guy who was going to tune out, didn't come to the end of the video, you're going to miss this. I'm not going to do a timestamp for this. Here's what I'm going to tell you guys. For those people who only look at timestamps, only look for the sneaky part, this is a sneaky hidden parlay piece. It will not, every video, I'm going to do one in the video that will not be in the timestamp. So you'll still have timestamps, but there's going to be one fight, a parlay piece I give you that will not be on the timestamps. It will not be in the comment section. If anybody mentions it in the comment section, I'm going to ban them from the channel and delete the comment. So there's no cheating. Every video is going to have one parlay piece in it. Here's my parlay piece of the night. Raoni Barcelos, the Dark Knight of the division. A guy who's like on a 15-fight win streak or something like that. He's on a crazy win streak. He hasn't lost in a long time, and he's only lost against like one guy who's like really high level, and there's no shame in it. He gave a really good account of himself. It was a great fight, but it also was a long time ago, and this guy's just looking better than ever, guys. This guy is going to be such a threat to the title. This guy could be a future champion one day. So he's my parlay piece. We don't have time to get into the specifics. The breakdowns and stuff will be inside the Patreon. You can see the statistics, the reasons. I give like 10-page explanations on every fight, plus private segments for every fight inside the Patreon only. All right, guys, so you got another... oh, and today, if you're a Patreon, my next private segment video coming out today is going to be the most important one, guys. This is going to be it's going to be loaded right after this. I'm loading it. It's going to be on Underdog that you want to go. This guy should be not only a favorite, a big favorite. This guy should be one of the biggest favorites of the card. They got him as an underdog. So I'm going to give you a full breakdown on that inside the Patrons only, guys. Thank you for your time. That's coming today. Look for it. Please, everybody, hit the like, hit the subscribe, make a comment, and look for these hidden parlay pieces and prop bets and stuff like that always inside the videos. They won't even be in the timestamps, but I will have timestamps coming as well for the rest of the fights that we talked about today. All right, thanks. So we got another video coming out for the Patrons only today, and then post weigh-in observations and stuff, and maybe another in-between segment coming out on the channel. So you're going to see a lot more content on the channel, and an interview coming soon as well. Just like the Miranda Maverick interview, we're going to have a guy who's going to be on the show who's coming up with a fight very soon. Thank you guys for your time. Enjoy the rest of your day. Bless you all.